Welcome to our panel, otherwise known as the Seth Meyers Overflow Room. Or is it the Kevin Bacon Overflow Room? How many people got stiffed out of Seth Meyers? You didn't even try. Oh, you are. You know what? I'm feeling the love just as you say that. I would introduce these guys, but I'd screw up their bios. So who are you people and what do you do?
I'm Gina Balian. I work at FX Networks. I've been there about a year and a half, and prior to that, I was at HBO for 11 years.
I'm Kathleen McCaffrey. I now work at HBO and used to work for Gina. I am director of development there, and prior to that, I was at UTA for a number of years, so I was on the selling side.
My name is Ben Davis. I'm Senior Vice President at AMC and work in development and current series. I've been there for 9 years.
I'm Joan Borstein, and I'm Senior Vice President of Development at Showtime, and I've been there my whole career, so about 20 years, actually.
Whoa.
I know. Crazy. Hi.
And I'm David Carr, and I can't fund your program, so it doesn't matter who I am. Think of me as the potted plant up here. You guys, I was thinking about this earlier in the week as I looked at the programming stacked on my nightstand, in my Roku, in my cable remote, in my Apple TV. This thing that had no cultural currency at all has become what we all talk about. When you get in a group, it quickly morphs into can Carrie do her job pregnant? Are they going to find the origin plague virus for the zombies on AMC? The table talk quickly pivots, and I'm wondering, we used to talk about movies, we used to talk about novels, and how did the idiot box morph into this golden orb of nuggety goodness?
I mean, I'll say that I think so much of this is about, you know, real strong serialized dramas that are about characters in people's lives. And, you know, for many years, I think TV was more procedural. It was, you know, medical case of the week or a law case of the week, and now it's about people's lives and how they live them, and they feel very human. And, you know, I think all of us up here develop characters that are flawed and are looking for that. And I think that's a big part of it.
And that audiences get invested in and want to stay with for a number of years versus just, 2 hours, whatever. So it's 60 hours versus 2 that you get to spend with these people. And I think also what Gina said, the ability on television to write really strong characters, to not be afraid to find those flaws, to not have to make people likable, to really examine stories in the kind of depth that you don't really get to do in features anymore. And I think as those feature opportunities dried up and people were looking towards other ways of expressing themselves, TV became something that was really significant.
Ben, just to stay broad for a minute, as this ecosystem of quality develops and we get used to big, long, interesting heaves on television full of texture and sometimes big-name directors and certainly more talent, is that a good thing for all of you guys? Because you're heading into this clutter of excellence, right? It used to belong mostly to HBO and other people would zoom in. Now you have people playing not just premium cable, paid cable, over the top, over the web. And so is it good that there's so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great thing. I mean, there can never be too many good movies. There can never be too many good books. Look, I think, with how competitive the marketplace is right now, it's really forcing us to raise our game. I mean, as the lines get blurred between features and TV, I mean, you look at the feature film business, and these studios are taking less and less creative risks. So you start to see this migration of talent come over from the feature world because it's so much more of a creatively satisfying experience to be able to stick with these characters and stick with these stories for such a long period of time and to get underneath these characters' skin in a substantial way. And I mean, I have to say, I think it's somewhat unprecedented to a certain degree. You look at someone like Matthew McConaughey, we're going through a McConaissance right now. I mean, it's really unbelievable. But, I mean, I think
you can't really count his speech at the Globes and the Oscars. I think those kind of cut.
No, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
But
he's his own hero.
Yes. All right. Look, but I think that is unprecedented in terms of an actor who won the Academy Award last week, who's starring as a series regular on television. That is unprecedented. And then you look at the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, too, and then you look at Adrian Brody. These are Academy Award winners in the past 10 years, and they're coming over to TV. So it's such an exciting time to be in TV.
But if I'm a nascent filmmaker in the audience, I'm thinking, well, it's great that Guillermo del Toro or David Fincher, or we could go down the list of directing talent, are now working on this big, wonderful canvas. It's called television. But is that good for somebody who's on the rise?
I think it is, because I think that the more ways you have of watching television, the more services, the more hungry people are for new product. And I think as much as you obviously look at Guillermo del Toro or John Logan or any of those people, we're all out there all the time looking for new voices, new people. I mean, all of us read tons and tons of new playwrights. We watch, new films, emerging films shorts, because there is a lot of opportunity and people need a lot of product. And I think you find people who are so interesting who don't have the experience yet, who have really something to say. So I don't think any of us are just kind of sitting on the laurels of people who have become, superstars in their own right. I think we're really also looking for the next person, the next thing to happen.
I think the best case scenario is to pair the new voices with the people who come with that experience. It's actually something really beautiful in that relationship, to put a new voice with someone who knows how to make it into product. Like girls.
Do you think that in terms of, if you look at this vast sort of game preserve of talent that you're working with, and you have television veterans, film veterans, brand new voices, where'd that come from? If somebody's here and thinking, do I have what it takes? Do I have a story that not only needs to be told but will connect with an audience in a meaningful way? Is there any kind of common characteristic or through line you guys have programmed for, with, and against each other? You've worked with each other, where you just do all these folks have something in common?
I would say for me, it's really all about dialogue. It's all about voice, and it's about dialogue. And you look at all of the shows on all of our networks, they have a very distinct voice. So, for me, I always look at the ends. I look at, the people that we know can do it and succeed, like the Finchers of the world, and then who are the people like Lena Dunham who appear on the screen, on the scene, and suddenly it's undeniable that there's a fresh, unique perspective there. So that, to me, it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's just about, you don't want to be in the middle. And the common characteristic is about having a distinctive voice. And that can be, usually it's in dialogue. That's why we do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also say that, again, the way we program the channel is kind of eclectic by design. So the shows are so different from one another. And there is a bit of a common DNA that kind of runs through all of our shows. So again, it starts with passion. We're a place that great writers want to come to tell their passion projects. There's a connection to the material. These people are very compelled and will do anything to try to get the show on the air. And they've been living with these stories for such a long time. There's just, again, a connection to the material where they have a singular vision where they know where the show wants to go and where the characters and the plot ultimately will arc out. So again, I think it's all singular vision too.
I think to sort of combine, it's for us, for for me, it's both voice and vision, but there's something really personal about the story you want to tell. The more of yourself that you're willing to give to the story, the more, as Ben said, you've been living with it for so long and you know it so well because it's your own. You know, some of the projects I'm most excited about are ones that came out of general meetings as opposed to pitches, because they used to spark a conversation and you get to know someone and a story they really want to tell or something they're really excited about. And sometimes ideas are birthed there versus like coming in and being like, so I have this hospital show for you, you know? So it's something really personal and like burning inside you, I think, for us, for me.
Once you settle on the fact that the person that you're talking with or in dialogue with, that you want to do business with them, then there's this next step about it's the audience side. Is there a runway for what they want to do? I mean, and it isn't like HBO or Showtime gets pushed around by their ratings and they'll stay with something for a while. But you have to think about how things land, and so I'm wondering, are you representing the audience when you're at that table, or are you just putting money on talent and knowing they'll find a way to get to them?
I mean, I think at Showtime, in my experiences, I'm sure it's like that everywhere, that when you find someone whose voice you believe in, when they present you with something that you really want to do, it is a process and kind of nurturing process that you go through when you're at Showtime, and I think we all spend a lot of time helping a writer shape a project that really we're all focused on what is this project, what is the story we want to tell, what is it that we believe in, and not really lying outside of the project, kind of looking at it externally saying, will this work, will it won't work, but really trying to to develop the story that we think is the best story and most true to the voice of the writer who's trying to tell that story. And I think what our experience has been that, great stories find audiences. And, again, stories that tap into something that is happening culturally. I mean, certainly Girls does that. And those stories find audiences. And we're lucky enough, I think, on cable that your audiences don't have to be massive. That there's room for all sorts of big shows, smaller shows. The shows are watched in a variety of ways so that you really have a chance to develop a piece of material into the best piece of material that you think it could be.
But we really like big shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone but Netflix likes to talk about their numbers, that's for sure. Netflix lives in a big black box, and they use that data to program your universe, but they don't, because they don't have to sell ads. They don't share them. I wonder when you're zeroing in, and at what point you think, well, let's reframe it. Do you think piloting is a massively inefficient way to find something really wonderful, or piloting is one more tool in the tool belt and enormously helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a remarkable tool to have in the tool belt. I mean, in that we've gone straight to series now in 2 instances when it's appropriate, The Walking Dead and now the Breaking Bad prequel, Better Call Saul. So, for us to be able to go through that pilot process is an extremely informative tool. You're able to kind of hit the pause button and see what works, what actors and characters are popping, really analyze the chemistry in the pilot, the pacing, and you have the ability to kind of go and autocorrect or make those calibrations along the way and sit down with your partners in the writer's room and try to figure out the best way to move forward. So I think it's an incredible opportunity to be able to...
I agree. I think you learn so much in the development process. There's just even how to work, to your point earlier about the vision, like within making the pilot, you're also talking about the series as a whole, so you're getting so much more from that experience. It's still valuable to us, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a very expensive proposition, and that's why there's been so much debate about in the business right now about whether or not you use pilots or you don't. And I think, pilots can cost anywhere from, let's say drama pilots, exactly, I won't look at you, from $5 million to, let's say, $10 million, right? And that's and an average TV show is anywhere from 2 to 5, let's say. So it's a very expensive write-off if it doesn't work. So I think everyone's saying, how do we get out of the business of spending $10 million on things that we're just trashing? I mean, no one else, and no other country does this. It's not what they do in England. You make it. So I think it's like, I think we have to come up with a system where we find a way to, I mean, the process I've done recently and really liked on this show, Fargo, is that we greenlit the show. We shot the first couple of episodes. We went down for a period where we had the room to retool, but we knew we were coming back up. So it's not a process where all the writers and the actors don't know that they're going to have a job in 2 months. It's a process where you still get the time to figure it out, but you're not you're saving some money because you're making that big commitment up front.
I was at Norman Lear's house. You should go. It's nice. And he lives up on the hill, on top of the hill.
A huge driveway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
And I was standing out looking below, and just the amount, just the money washing down those gullies, was just, like, unbelievable. He said, "See all those fucking houses? That isn't movies, that's TV. Pilots mostly." The piloting process supports an entire sort of apparatus, right?
Yeah.
But the alternative, like Ben, you said you didn't pilot Walking Dead.
Correct.
Okay, so if somebody came to me and said, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do frickin' zombies, just huge. And I would have said, well, at the time, if you remember the cultural context, I would have said, that's over, that's done. And you came up with a show that wiped out everything on network television. Your show talking about the show was rated better than all of NBC's regular schedule. So
That's true.
It makes you wonder who the real zombies are, but we won't go into that. But who was the golden gut that just said? Because I would have said that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, you know, it seems like a no-brainer, but it really wasn't at the time, to be honest with you.
A zombie no-brainer.
It was
competitive.
It was a
competitive.
Wow.
You know, it was
Yeah.
Whoa!
We're not going to talk about that. But,
It was sneaky.
oh.
You kids.
2 versus 1, not fair.
It's true.
But we saw who won.
Beat us. Right, exactly.
We saw.
Nice.
This time.
But no, when we had the project and we were considering a green light, I mean, it was not a no-brainer. I mean, horror. We had a platform on the network, Fear Fest, where we were trying desperately to be able to find a sustainable, serialized horror show, and that hadn't been done up until that point. So one has to sit back and wonder why isn't there, you know, there seems to be a big appetite for that particular genre, but why isn't that appetite met? So we kind of just, again, took a deep breath and looked at the genre, and zombies are a subgenre of horror. So we had an idea that there was probably some sort of passionate audience that would come to this, but we could never begin to predict how broad the show ended up becoming. And I'll just add on to that too, that like The Walking Dead and a lot of other signature shows on a lot of other networks, you know, these signature shows end up having a shelf life or a previous life at another channel. So again, you know, it takes the right creative team at the right place to be able to, you know, identify that project and take that leap, because it was a huge leap. I mean, it was a big, big risk. We were the channel that was known for Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and then to go to The Walking Dead too, again, optically, it does not seem like a no-brainer. So it was a big risk for everyone involved, and obviously it paid off, so.
Can you guys think of a show that either you were connected with or watched at your operation that came out little, really slow, you guys stuck with it, we're talking about a grower, not a shower.
I mean, I think I'm just going to be bold here and say I think Breaking Bad is the poster child for that. I mean, that is a show that grew every season and then kind of exploded in season 4 and season 5. And again, it was underneath the radar. People were not talking about it, and it was somewhat acclaimed early on with Bryan Cranston, and people started slowly paying attention. But I have to credit, management at AMC too for really kind of believing in Vince Gilligan's vision. I mean, we heard in the original pitch of what he wanted to do in terms of taking Mr. Chips and turning him into Scarface, that kind of infamous log line, and we wanted to be on board to be able to see Bryan Cranston turn into Scarface. So, we believed in the show, and again, it took a lot of conviction and a lot of patience, but everyone loved the show at AMC, and obviously it paid off dividends.
Somewhere out in this audience, there's the next auteur in development that's gonna make a show like that, and I'm wondering, how is it that they get your attention? I can remember being here 5 years ago, and these two, I was staying at the San Jose, and these two young women came over, and with their movie, I had asked some people at the festival, what are some of the things they've seen? And they were just like little monkeys. They were just adorable, just hopping around. And they acted like they're giving their movie to Tony Scott at the New York Times, not some, and so, like kind of twitching when they handed it over. And I said, well, that's cute. What did you guys do on the movie? And the one said, well, I was the executive producer. The other one said, I wrote, directed, and starred in it. It was Alicia Van Koovering and Lena Dunham. And I think to myself, their talent on that film was so incandescent that even someone like me could recognize it. But what's the route? How do you stick out above the clutter in such a way where they say, hey, we're going to hook you up with Judd Apatow and you're going to make a series that speaks for your generation? You know what I mean?
You want to take this?
Well, I think now, this is maybe a bold statement, but I think it's really making something. We read tons of scripts. There are a lot of good writers, and sometimes the script really pops. But it is, when I saw Tiny Furniture, I had the same reaction as everybody. Was just like, what is this girl saying? And then, again, to my point earlier, she didn't pitch anything. She came in for a general meeting, and it was just like, she's amazing, and she's got something to say. And then we put it together from there to figure out what it exactly was that she was going to say. But it is hard to stick out from the clutter, and I don't have the exact answer. Sometimes it sounds so Pollyanna to say, like, being yourself or telling your story or, like just being so true to your own voice. That's what it was about Lena. She came in and literally the conversation was, she and I were talking about how that day we had both signed off Facebook because she had gone on Facebook and found out her ex-boyfriend was gay, and I was like stalking some guy, I don't know, whatever. So we just like were like, we're never going on Facebook again. And then we started talking, and I was like, I'm just not done talking to this girl. She's got, and we ended up having 3 more meetings, and then I bought a project from her, which ended up again being sort of a lucky break. But it was just, she was just herself and so raw and honest, and she had also made this movie, which was wonderful.
Gina, once you find a writer and you're trying to bring them along, what's that dialogue like? What do you do?
Really, it's just you're trying to encourage them to just be themselves and be comfortable. I always say, just go for it. This is just a development process. Use it as that. Don't worry about if someone's gonna like it or not like it, if it's too offensive, if it's not right for the network. Don't worry about those things. Just write what you want to write. It's your time to experiment. And so that's usually kind of how we go through it. And there's probably about 3 rounds of notes. And I would say, you generally get a sense very early on with the first or second draft whether or not you think it's something that's going to work.
Right.
It's just there's something, I don't know if you guys would agree, but you can tell. I've been proven wrong, but you get the sense very early on.
Joan, you work at a network that has been kind of a reliable dynamo quality for a while, and in fact, probably kind of helped build the world that we live in, the televised version of it. I wonder, as you watch all these platforms open up, all these opportunities open up, do you think to yourself, wow, what a great time to be a creative? That it's
Yeah, I mean, I think I do, because I think it's getting everybody talking about content, about programs. I think for us at Showtime, the people who subscribe to Showtime tend to have two or three other things they subscribe to. They're Netflix subscribers, they watch on their phones, they watch on Showtime anytime. You know, there's a million things, and there's a constant need for, you know, to be watching things. So I think, I feel now, as opposed to, let's say, 10 years ago, that there's just so many bright, aware people who do have something to say. I mean, I think people are tuned into this kind of programming in a very different way, and they work much harder. And like Kathleen said, they make things, they continue to write. It's not, it's the effort is really, you know, put in there. So I think it is exciting to be a creative executive at this time, because I feel like the world that I am functioning in is a much bigger world.
And also, exactly, like ideas are, you can get a sense of, I read Vulture, I read Jezebel, I mean, I read everything scouring for ideas. You know, you can look at Twitter and find incredible voices of people. And I feel like 10 years ago, there were, you know, the route was through an agent, and that was it. And I think it's not at all anymore that way. There's so many opportunities to find interesting voices.
well, given that sort of technology is democratized and the sort of tools of the man now lie in the hands of the insurgency. You know, we have cannons that can shoot. You know, what
Yeah.
tiny furniture costs $50,000 to make, and would you just say to people over and over, you know what, go make it?
Yeah.
Show me what you've done with your own two dirty little hands, or because obviously you're not going to be able to make it exactly as you like, and it's going to be imperfect and full of flaws, but maybe you want to see their thinking rendered visible. Maybe you want to see the web series. Maybe you want to see
100%.
Anything.
Yeah,
Truly.
or short films.
I was gonna
mean,
say,
there's
we-
all sorts
yeah.
of things that we look at that you just get a sense, oh, this person, I mean, I just remember seeing a short film recently, and I was like, oh, this person is so inventive. He found on what was obviously a very small budget a way to get me so into this film that I, you know, physically felt ill almost from what he was doing. And I was like, oh, I would really want to meet this person, because, you know, he's really original. And it was, you know, probably a 7-minute thesis film that he did. So, you know, I just think it's finding ways. You have to find ways to stick out, because obviously with the increased, you know, all the increased platforms and everything, there's just many, many more people who are interested in writing and directing, and so you have to find that way to think of something that I think really has something to say, has a unique way of saying it, and, you know, just figure out a way to either get it made or, you know, to get part of it made, to just show, you know, what you're all about.
So I take from your story, one of the secrets is making a development executive sick with your work.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Do you think that, I mean, this is one thing I think about as a consumer. Do you think the audience or the creator now brings any different expectations to ad-supported cable versus premium cable? Or is it's all got to be great, it's all got to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, unless you're in search of trying to find body parts or language, gratuitous language, I mean, I think that basic cable kind of stands side by side now with premium cable. I mean, again, look at The Walking Dead in terms of the scope and scale, and what an immersive experience, what an immersive cinematic experience that is. And again, with some real scope and scale to it, you know, it's just, the lines are blurring. And so again, for premium, unless you're trying to, you know, go to Cinemax late at night and Cinemax.
Don't say that anymore.
Sorry.
For the record, I don't even know where that is.
You know, well, we all know where it is.
Speaking,
Guys, come on.
speaking of Skinemax, do you find that the web ecosystem of content is burping up people that can cross over to a little bit bigger screen? I mean, are you seeing things on the web? Is that a place to get your attention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, again, I think we all have the difficulty of just, how do you cut through the clutter, you know, so.
I think on the web too, not to interrupt you, it works a little bit better in the comedy space than it does in the
Yeah.
drama space. You know, short form comedy stuff lives on the web and is, that stuff I feel like I'm getting all the time. Less so on the drama side, for dramatic people, it's, yeah.
This is it's a purely question on my part, but I'm wondering if you've all had fairly successful careers during a successful time in television, but can you think of a show where you had just a huge girl crush on it or a man crush that you just loved who made it, loved what it had to say, and the audience just went by, no matter what you did?
Okay.
Or even as a viewer.
I mean, I think for me, you know, I think the show that I probably have a little bit of sadness in my heart about is Brotherhood. It was the first show I ever made, and it was with a young writer also who hadn't done anything, who had a passion for this idea and brought it to us, and we paired him with Henry Bromell, who was an amazing, wonderful writer. And I think it was just, you know, it was just a little bit ahead of its time. I mean, Ray Kurzweil was talking to us the other day, and he was sort of saying a lot depends on timing, and sometimes you can have a great invention or a great idea, and if it's not the right time, it just kind of goes by the wayside, you know. And I think with Brotherhood, it was a little more raw. It was examining politics. It was examining these brothers in a really, really honest way. And now, you know, these years later, all of a sudden there's all this Whitey Bulger, because obviously he was found. So it's tons of Whitey Bulger movies and things are in the marketplace. And so I feel like if it just had happened a few years later, I think it would have been much more in the zeitgeist.
That's the part of your job that just drives me crazy, is you can have perfect everything, but lightning still.
It doesn't
has
strike, yeah.
There has to be a little magic in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, my show was, that I had a connection to, was a show Rubicon, speaking of Henry Bromell.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were huge fans of those great 70s political thrillers, Condor, Parallax View, and we thought there was a big opportunity in the marketplace to do a political thriller with, that kind of lives in the world of espionage. And for whatever reason, you know, it wasn't a perfect show, but it was a show that we loved at the channel, and it just, viewers just couldn't fully embrace it. And we thought, you know, again, we tried to do a show that instead of Jack Bauer, we wanted to focus on a character that was more like Jack Ryan, and the show really offered up a platform to kind of comment on what was going on in society. So it was kind of a left of center way to comment on, you know, WikiLeaks in success. And for whatever reason, you know, the show just didn't connect with viewers. And 2 years later, Henry Bromell is working on Homeland, and our suspicion for a great political thriller was confirmed by Showtime. So,
do you think that just imagine that you're a young writer, director. Should you be putting a lot of energy into representation, seeking proper representation, or should you just spend all your time making stuff?
I mean, I'm a big believer in, if you're a writer, you need to keep writing. You can simultaneously, you know, keep your ears open for looking for someone, and I think always pass your scripts along, because so many young writers will come to my office will have a manager that they got through a friend of a friend who knew somebody, and this person read it. But those things take a long time. And I think that what you don't want to do is get into a position where you're just waiting, which I think is, when I first got to LA, I was like, oh my God, I feel like all people do was wait around here in like coffee shops and things. And I think you want to continue to hone your craft. You want to continue to always write or always direct, or always do what you're doing. And then try to meet as many people in forums like this and try to get your work read by as many people as possible, because I do believe in that sort of 6 degrees of separation. This one knows this person, this one knows this person. And ultimately, hopefully you'll get something that'll land on a young, hungry kid's desk that's trying to get their first clients, and that happens a lot.
Well, that's what I was just gonna, if I could just literally just piggyback off of that, that's what I was just gonna say. I think having come from the representation side, I think representation is very important. I think the way to get representation is the assistants. I think they're the most powerful because it's a mutually beneficial thing. They wanna get promoted, so they need you, and they will try to get you a job so that, you know what I mean? And people just, they wanna go to the top, they wanna have an established agent. I think the young, hungry people are the one, I've had so many good scripts come from so-and-so's assistant or so-and-so's assistant who just got promoted to coordinator. Like, those are the people who have their finger on the pulse, they know everything, and they have good taste, and they're looking to develop their own voices too, so, or their own brand, I guess, and so but I do think it's important to have somebody guiding you.
The good pitches are all over the road, let's do an animated series about a secret agent that's not very secret and is drunk all the time, like Archer is. Love that show. Or you know what I mean? They're all over the. But what do bad pitches generally have in common? What is whenever?
I know. People acting out the parts in the voice of the characters.
Yeah.
Sorry, those are
know.
always painful.
I think for me, length is always a factor, and kind of getting lost in what your pitch is supposed to be. I mean, I think, you sort of getting lost in the small minutiae of things, so that you find that you're looking at your paper and you're reading something, and 45 minutes has gone by and you haven't looked up and you haven't related to us and you haven't really let us sort of live in what the thematics of the show are, what the character arcs of the show are. We're just getting caught up in a lot of minutia, and I think that tends to kind of, we kind of drop out, you know?
And I mean, I'll focus on the content of the pitch, because I know we've all been in a lot of horror story pitches, but, in terms of content, it's just whatever the flavor of the month is, let's just say a certain concept, a certain character, a certain genre is working really well, you'll start to see carbon copies of that, and whoever is in that writer's life that's whispering in their ear saying, go to the market with a horror series that's really hot at the moment. We could generally sniff that out a mile away, just because, again, you get a sense that that material is not personal. There's no connection to the material. There's no kind of vision that bleeds into the piece. So, again, I think what we're all saying on this panel, for the most part, is to try to find some sort of area, character, unique story that is incredibly personal to you, again, because it will just hopefully ooze out of you when you're writing.
And look, we all know that every real success story, be it Lost, Desperate Housewives, American Horror Story, those are all outside the box ideas. There was nothing else like them on TV. So at the end of the day, all you're really trying to do is say, okay, what isn't out there, at least it's particularly in the cable market, and frankly, the networks too. We're all bidding on the same things these days.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're just looking for something that feels different. And so that's really the key.
Fair warning, we're going to cut to questions in about 3 minutes, so feel free to line up. I just want to go back to this issue of quality one more time. Did TV preoccupies conversation in a way that I think is wild. Is it partly because movies got smaller or less interesting, that in a search for tentpoles that maybe...
I mean, I think that's part of it, absolutely part of it, but also I just think that, like let's say in the 70s, where you had all these fabulous auteur filmmakers, you had a tremendous vision, that because, you know, of the need for tent poles, and because films tend to use sort of the same people over and over again, that great writers came to television, you know, and it was something that Gina said, that because television sustains over 18 episodes, 12 episodes, 10 episodes, whatever it is, it allows it to be in the market, you know, it allows it to be in the universe in a significant way. You're not playing the same movie over and over again, but you're anticipating what's going to come next, and it allows it to be, you know, a real unique part of the conversation.
I'm thrilled that you guys are all lined up like this, and I want to honor that. So, young lady, please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, my name is Nicole, and I'm a graduate student studying entertainment management. I have a background in research, but I'd really like to be sitting where you guys are someday in the development role. So can you tell me a little bit about how research affects your decision-making for the network, or do you really trust your own instincts when developing new programs?
Yeah, I mean, we try to start off when we're looking at a project, whether or not we're deciding when we're going to make it, we start off with a very fundamental question: do we love it? Are we passionate about it? And again, we'll weigh that against lots of other factors. What else we have on the slate? What else we have on the channel? Whether or not we have a specific platform or need we have to fill. But again, in terms of big data, it's a great tool to have at your disposal, but for us, it never dictates policy. I mean, you know, a machine's never going to be able to spit out the next Mad Men or Breaking Bad. So I think for us, we always rely on our gut in terms of buying into those, you know, really unique visions.
But a lot of people are trying
Yes.
to see if big data can come up with the formula. And I'm sure there will be successes.
Well, there already are.
Yeah,
I mean,
there
as
already
ours
are.
is, yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. You talked about Breaking Bad and how it grew as a show and grew in popularity. And I heard Vince Gilligan say that he kind of attributes Breaking Bad's growing success to Netflix and how all the episodes were on Netflix. And I was wondering if you could talk about the changing dynamics between your networks and Netflix, because you're able to have your shows on there sometimes, but now it's also a competitor with shows like House of Cards. So I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have an interesting, complex relationship with Netflix. You know, they are both friend and foe. We have a deal with them as well. So, in regards to Breaking Bad too, I mean, I believe, and I have to check my facts, but I believe that Breaking Bad went to Netflix around season 4. And so again, we believed in the show, and we were big supporters of the show up until that point. And obviously, we were able to gain, with the catch-up phenomenon, you know, the benefits of that as well in season 4 for Breaking Bad. But yeah, I mean, it's there's certainly a competitor, and you know, there's times where we're competing over the same material. But again, we, you know, have a deal with them for our own original content. So it's a interesting, complex relationship we have.
Well, yeah, and it's not just a money deal. People like me were late adopters to Breaking Bad. The fact that there was a place to run and friction-free catch up with all of it. I mean, I was part of your big number at the end, so it wasn't just that that it's another window for you to sell stuff through. It makes what you have in live real time more valuable, yes.
But at the same time, like on Showtime, for instance, we have always had an on-demand feature to all our programming, and we've always had, you know, we see in shows like, let's say like Homeland, that keep growing and growing, that people use the on-demand feature as ways to view whole seasons, review seasons, and they do. I mean, on Showtime anytime. So we've had a kind of version of that kind of thing going on, where even while you know, Shameless is on, you can watch all the other seasons on Showtime anytime. I mean, HBO certainly has that on HBO Go and on HBO. So I think, you know, that these shows are also getting into the universe a little bit more, and the ratings are going up every year on all these shows because people are watching them off network on all sorts of things, not just Netflix.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Remy, producer here in Texas. I want to know what you guys think of the 1090 deals, like Anger Management. I think King George did the same deal. as well as possibly private equity financing? I know each of you have studios that you guys work with, but do you consider private equity financing of series coming to you guys and developing it with you from that standpoint, from an independent standpoint?
With regards to the 1090 deals, it's not my area of expertise, but specifically, I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of programming on, you know, we just program a few hours a week. And so for many years, the syndication model and those shows have brought a lot of ratings to the network. There, in the last year, that's been changing some. So, you know, I think the question's still out about them, but I think they are valuable for just having original content on your network. With regards to private equity funding, we haven't gone that route. You know, I think we certainly look to international partners on a lot of projects. So maybe doing co-productions with other networks. But I think we're all in a mode of wanting to own our own content more and more. That's really a driving part of the business.
Go ahead, please. Thanks for your patience.
Hello, I'm Damien. I'm also a graduate student studying entertainment industry management. The question that I have is, well, we are going to have 4 internships for our next year of our program. And in development, Kathleen, you said that you were in talent for a while. So what are some other departments in television that would lend best to development? So some other departments that we could, you know, possibly work in.
Tell me if you disagree. I think when you work in development, leading up to that, it's good to see it from every side. It's been invaluable to me to have seen it from the selling side to now be a buyer. You know, that's invaluable, I think, learning a production, going to work in production on a show as a writer's PA. Really, it all comes together. So you can't go wrong is the good news. There's no science to it, and it's a windy road to get to this seat, and you shouldn't, you know, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. So try everything. Sell, buy, be a manager, you know.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Sam Cantor. I'm an undergraduate student at USC, and I'm also an HBO campus agent, but this question is unbiased. I was wondering how you think that basic and premium cable channels will adapt to the digital environment and how it markets and develops its shows, and different ways that they're using sort of digital to enhance the experience.
I mean, I think I can speak a little bit to what we're doing with Penny Dreadful. Our digital marketing person happens to be in the audience. And I think was the really exciting thing that's happened, and we've been doing digital stuff for all our shows, but really with Penny Dreadful it kind of exploded, and really taking advantage of all the interactive qualities, you know, doing all these great blogs, having a specific website that has, you know, games and various things that you can use from your mobile phone, you can use from your computer, you can use from your tablet, and you know, having a presence on all the social media, I mean, has been, we've found it invaluable. I mean, it was for past shows like Homeland and Dexter was huge in the digital marketplace, but I think Penny Dreadful is kind of taking it a level further. So I think it's really interesting for us.
Thank you.
We've done some of that on Game of Thrones. I can't even keep up with all the stuff.
Yeah.
That's out there. Game of Thrones. Couldn't speak to it, so.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Snehal, and first of all, I want to thank David because you're pretty freaking awesome with this panel. One of the best. The panel's been wonderful. My question is, you know, the conventional thinking in Hollywood, I think, for a long time has been that if your main lead character, or at least your lead cast, is white, straight male, then you're going to get the whitest appeal, which personally I think is ridiculous because I can love Don Draper as much as I can love a character that looks like myself. And as we can see, that the panel is not yet as diverse as the audience itself. So in the future, or right now, do you see changes happening when there's studies coming out that show, you know, that with research that the bottom line of networks is affected by lack of diversity? Then are you seeing changes in executives? Are you seeing changes in the way that you're seeing stories? Like when stories come through the door, are you giving equal weight to anyone that, you know, doesn't look like you?
Well, I think it's important to point out that 3 of us are women.
Lucky me.
That's pretty much the answer I always get from from white women is that, well, there's women, so I'm sorry, but I'm not white or a woman.
But I work on a show that got a lot of heat for this. You know, we're very conscious of it, and it's a weird. And I can't put my finger on why it sort of is this way, but
What show are we talking about?
girls, all
Okay.
white girls, you know, got in trouble.
Daughters of famous people.
And nepotism is a big thing too. By the way, they were not that
I
famous.
think they
but-
plead guilty to the narcissism, not the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, it was something we took a hit for, and we are, as a company and as a network, very conscious of making sure we're finding voices with different perspectives, and you know, we're aware of it. It's just we're getting there. It's an active thing, so that's the best I can say.
And the same for Showtime. I think we're all actively trying to develop stuff that is more ethnically diverse, and certainly, you know, Don Cheadle is a star of House of Lies, and you know, we you know are, you know, constantly looking for those kinds of opportunities. So.
Thank you.
Just as a consumer, I want to co-sign what you're saying, which is a lot of people on TV look like me, only better, doughy, white, whatever. I just a little bit added to it. I don't like that anytime you see a person of color that's their main characteristic.
You got it. That's right.
And
Right.
That's right.
I like everybody else is watching the Globes, and so I got hip to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I was like, what is this? And then you see Andy Brower show up, and the fact that he's gay and black doesn't, his character, excuse me, is gay and black, that's not really his chief characteristic. And it just seemed like he's just like an interesting dude. And I do think that television in general, there's real money there. There's real money there, and they'll figure it out. That's the end of my little commercial. Where was I? Go ahead.
It's in everyone's consciousness now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah, but we want to see it on our screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Will Butler. I'm a journalist and writer, and we're on opposite sides of the room, but my question is similar to Sneha's. I'm also, as you can see, blind for the most part, and it's something I think about a lot in terms of out-of-the-box ideas, and I think people with mental health issues and other disabilities, I mean, we're all disabled on some level, just in different degrees. And I know we're in a really progressive era for television in terms of race and ways of life, but I still think in large part disability gets swept under the rug. I think it's nice to see shows like Growing Up Fisher on NBC, but I'm wondering from the perspective of your networks what you think about those kind of issues.
Just a sec on Growing Up Fisher, does it piss you off that the guy isn't blind?
You know what? I don't even watch it because I don't want it to infect my my process.
Look, I would say, you know, part of the struggle is, as we all started this panel by saying, is like you're looking for people to write what you know, what they know. And I've been hearing pitches for 11 years. I've never had anyone come in and talk to me about that issue. And what it's like to live like that. And, you know, those are the kinds of stories we are looking for. Frankly, you know, we take responsibilities ultimately for what we put on our air, but you do feel like there are holes in the kinds of material that you see. And that's why I think we all started by saying it's not just about, you can't expect David Fincher and Guillermo del Toro to be the only people bringing in stories. You're always looking for the new voice, and you're hungering for that, you know?
I'm glad I came. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Russ. I'm a songwriter and musician, and I was just wondering, as far as getting original music into cable TV shows, who is the gatekeeper, or what is the best approach to go about that?
It tends to be the music supervisors.
Yeah, the music
I mean,
supervisor.
I could say on Shameless,
we use a ton of original music, and I think that, you know, we're constantly looking for new songs because we can't afford huge songs. So I think it's looking at some of the shows that you love or you think that your music would be right for, and sending stuff to, again, the assistance of the music supervisors, as many kind of people as you can that are not the top cheese, and let them kind of get into your music, kind of nurture those relationships, and that's a way that possibly you can get your music heard. You know, putting up something on YouTube also is a way that people can hear a song, you know, so.
But it's generally driven by the series itself.
Yeah,
not by.
us. Yeah.
Okay.
We're at that time. Our final question. It better be a good one.
Well, it's
Balls
very.
to you. I don't want to put pressure on
A
you.
lot of pressure. It's very poetic that he went in front of me because I actually have a screenplay about disabilities. What's the best vehicle to get it in front of you? Like a teaser, a treatment, or the actual screenplay?
I say screenplay.
Yeah.
Absolutely screenplay.
Actually, the entire screenplay rather than sending a teaser.
You know,
Yeah.
you want to see your voice. You want to see the dialogue. You know, I always feel like, you know what, we can all help in a room figure out a plot. What I can't figure out is the character that's going to take you on a journey for 5 years.
Right.
I don't do that job. That's why I sit here. So a screenplay I always think's the best.
Screenplay? Okay.
Having had the opportunity to meet these guys backstage a little bit and to listen to them talk about what they do, I'm not surprised that I'm up at 1:30 in the morning endlessly surfing what you do. I feel less and less guilty about it as I go. And I think you should be happy about the fact that some of the greatest stories being told in our culture right now are being done by people that you help out. Thanks a lot for
Thank you.
Thank you.